Hi, my name is Mark Taylor. I'm a one-stroke certified instructor, and today I'm presenting my basic strokes kit for you for one-stroke painting. The kit includes a set of 10 brushes, so we've got plenty to get you going from, and these range from the large 3/4 flat brush right down through a number 12, a number 10, an 8, 6, right down to a little tiny 2. Which is great if you're painting tiny things like fingernails. Works really well for that. There's 2 script liners in there. The longer one, the number 2, and then the number 1, which is the shorter one, which is great for fine detail. And then we also have 2 scruffy brushes in here. The nice big 3/4 and then the 1/4 inch one. Which the 1/4 inch one is great for flower centres, and this big one will do lots of mossing. Now when these come out of the packet, they're quite flat, so you do need to fluff them up. So just kind of pull those strands out with the side of your thumb. You'll get a few little stray hairs that do come out. Now this is a natural hair brush, so you do need to be a little bit more careful with it when you're washing it. Just pounce it up and down to clean it. Okay, so that's the brushes. They come in the set. You also get 6 colours of paint, which will be enough for all the projects that I'm going to show you. And we also have a bottle of floating medium, which is really useful if you're painting on porous surfaces. So when you're using the worksheets that come in this reusable plastic wallet, you won't need the floating medium for this, just the paint, and you can wipe this off and reuse it. Okay, so you're painting right on top of my strokes here. So we've got these yellow strokes, which are like a sunflowers, and then you've got the leaves and the vine. We also include a butterfly on there. We've got another sheet there which has basic daisies. This might not show up so well on the camera, but it's quite clear when you see it in the flesh. So some daisies, some 5-petal flowers, all the basic strokes, so you can practice this over and over again. And these also will fit into the plastic wallets that everybody seems to have dotted around in the home. So this is the 3rd week worksheet that you get in the pack. This one's got the Rosebuds and the Wigan Leaves. Once you get these done, that opens up lots of flowers like pansies and roses, and you won't be able to stop then once you've got those done. So they're the worksheets. I said you've got the worksheets, the brushes, and the paints, plus the floating medium in there. And then once you've got those, you can pretty much paint on anything once you've got the strokes down from the worksheets. Here I've base coated a canvas panel, it's 10 by 14. I'm going to paint the daisies and 5-petal flowers on this one for you. And basically what we need to do is use a foam plate, because these don't absorb the water in the paint. If you use a paper plate, you'll find that the water will that's in the paint will tend to be soaked into the plate, so it will dry out, and always give them a good shake. It will dry out, and you'll get a little bit frustrated because you'll be throwing paint away. So I'm going to squeeze out some green, some white, and a touch of yellow. That's that, and some yellow. Okay. Sorry, I've only got enough plate green on, so let's get that going. Okay, so using my large flat brush, and we do use the large one because it holds more paint. So we want to keep going with our paint, so we're going to double load that. And when I double load, I dip one corner in the green, one corner in the white, work that in on my blending spot, backwards and forwards, green, white in there. And I'm going to pick up some yellow on the white side and work that all in. And we're looking to see a stripe that fades from the dark green to the white. Okay, the white and yellow in this case. Okay, so pick up some more paint, and you need to keep picking up paint all the way through. So don't be frightened of picking up more paint, because if you haven't got any paint on the brush, it won't work. Okay, so I'm going to be using the chisel edge of the brush. Basically, that's that part here, because we want to get some fine lines for some stems and leaves. So starting at the bottom, and if I do this sideways on, first of all, when we touch the brush onto the surface, we lift up the lighter colour and then sweep it up. So we're just dragging the green corner, and what that gives you is a nice fine line. Most people want to push it this way, and what happens then is you get a really thick line, and that's not what we want. So our stems, as in nature, are not going to be straight lines. They're going to be nice, fine lines. They've got a slight curve to them. Again, keep picking up paint. And you might need some medium for this. Now, if you're using the medium, you literally just dip the brush into the puddle of medium and work it in. And you'll immediately feel the difference in how the brush feels. It kind of almost like it greases the brush for you. And you'll find that your strokes will become a lot smoother. So we're going to paint a few different length strands here. And they can cross over each other. And some of these will have flowers on, and some of them will just be like grass. So, okay, so that'll do. And if we want to add some more later, we can. So that's our base for the project. Now I'm going to use my smaller brush from the kit, which is my number 12. This time I'm just going to pick up white paint on the brush. I'll go back to my other plate because that's got a nice fresh puddle of white on it. And this time I just want to pour white paint out of the puddle, both sides of the brush. And we really need the brush to be loaded 2/3 of the way up, towards from the tip to the ferrule. If it goes onto the ferrule, don't worry, because we are going to be cleaning it properly later. Okay, so the way we create a daisy, it's much easier to do if you think of a clock face. I always like to think of a clock face because it's something that everybody can picture without, even if you haven't got one in front of you. So we're going to use the same technique where we're painting on the chisel edge of the brush, but this time we're putting a bit more pressure on so that you get a thick enough stroke that looks like a flower petal. So we touch, lean and pull in the direction we're going, which in this case is the centre of the flower. So we touch, lean, pull, touch, lean, pull, touch, lean, pull. So we've got this kind of cross, and then we can fill in between those strokes as many petals as you want. Touch, lean, pull, all the way around. So that gives us our flower. Okay, so we can then add as many of those flowers on there as we want. And we can add a side view flower which just has petals at the bottom. Again, same stroke, touch, lean, pull towards the centre, and keep working that way. Okay, so keep picking up paint. Let's add some more of these daisies in. So again, always using that clock face idea to balance our flower out. And the more pressure you put on this, the thicker those strokes will be. You don't put a lot of pressure on, they'll be nice and skinny. So whichever suits your project best is the way to do it. So let's add a couple more of those in there. And okay, and we'll come back and add some centres in later. But at the moment I've got 4 flowers on there, and I don't want to use an even number. So let's add another half flower that way. So you get an even, an uneven number. Always looks better if you have an uneven number. Okay, so now I'm going to rinse that brush because I want to pick up some purple on my brush to paint my 5-petal flowers. Okay, so let's just put that down for a second, and I'll squeeze some purple out. Okay, and when you're squeezing the paint out, always work around the outside of the plate, because then that gives you the centre to actually do your blending. Okay, so let's double load that. So again, like I said before, one corner in the purple, one corner in the white. Work that in. Now you can also, there's an alternative way to load this brush. Some people prefer it, some people would rather double load. You can pick up all purple, both sides of the brush, like we did with the white just now for the daisies, and then just stroke next to the puddle of white. And that's called side loading. And sometimes that can give you a smoother blend. Okay, so when again 2/3 of the way loaded. Now with these 5-petal flowers, they're quite simple. It's easier if you have a little V to start off with, and you're going to start on one side, finish on the other. Now there's not a great deal of movement in the brush. It doesn't go in a full circle. It just starts at an angle, you put pressure down and then slides back to the other side. Okay, so these are my two, my little V. So I'm going to start there, push it up, a little bit of a curve and then back down to the other side. So that's my teardrop stroke for that flower, and we just keep adding those in a group until we have 5 on there. Now, you can actually paint more than 5, but we never really want to paint less unless we're doing a half flower, and sometimes I like to just restroke over those just to smooth them out. So I'm going to add those on, add more of those into the design, and as I was mentioning the half flower, you can add just 3 petals on there, which will give us a half flower. And with these we can cluster them, so they look quite good when you add some more on top of others. So that half flower will then just look like a whole flower sat behind this one. Okay, so keep working on those, and you keep going till it looks right, really. So I'm going to add another one up here. This time I'm going to add, using those daisy petal strokes, I'm going to add a couple of those which are my trailing petals, and then another flower there for those petals to be coming out of. Okay, so once you've got the hang of these 5 petal flowers, you can use them to give you an effect of lots of different flowers. They can look like hydrangeas if you do a nice cluster of them, and the shape is pretty much like a gingerbread man, really. So if you think about the head, 2 arms and then 2 legs. Okay, but it's always important to relax and have fun when you're doing this, because this is meant to be stress release. Okay, so just stroke back over that just to smooth those strokes out. Okay, so that's my 5 petal flowers. I said I'm going to stroke back over that one as well, actually, because that's there. I can come in and add some, using those daisy petal strokes again, with the same colour, the purple and white. Okay, I can come in and add some little wildflowers. See, that's a daisy petal stroke. I'm just doing it in a line here, working my way down, pick up some more paint, to give that a stalk flower. Okay, but again, that's the same stroke that we use for the daisy, and I can reverse them so that it's purples at the top. Now these aren't actually, these little stalk flowers aren't on the worksheet, but I said it's the same stroke as the daisy we did there, but just doing it in a line, so you'll be able to work that one out, I'm sure. Okay, so that's our basic design laid out. And now I'm going to add some flower centres, which always make our flowers look more complete. So if I dip the handle end of the brush into the yellow and just put a little spot of yellow into the centre of those flowers, and go back into the yellow each time, so you get a nice nice round spot of colour there. Okay, and for our daisies, I'm just going to come in with our small scruffy, and we'll tap in some of the yellow. Just tap in some yellow on there, and because we're using the scruffy brush, it gives you a little bit of a texture to it. You can come in and add another colour if you wish. Don't forget to tap our centre into the half flowers as well. And that's on. Okay, so that's our basic design, and this is a really good one for you to start with, because because it'll get you used to painting those daisies, and you can use those daisy petals for lots of different things. Once you get used to how that goes, the more pressure you use, if you use a larger brush, you can make it into a chrysanthemum, cosmos, Michaelmas daisies. There's lots of daisy type flowers around, so that worked really well. Now, the most important thing, of course, is that you're going to be very proud of your work, so you need to make sure that you sign it. So, going back to my green, using the script liner that's in the pack, I'm going to just add a little bit of water to my green. Now, this is the only brush really that we use water with, because if we use water with a paint, it's going to muddy the colour, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so using the script liner, I'm going to just sign my name on the bottom of the board. You should always be happy to sign your work. And that's that one done. Okay, so it's a nice simple project to get you moving. Okay, so put that one to one side. Now, one I started on a little while ago was using our sunflower vine, and this just shows you, same thing again, I've sponged the background here, but using light periwinkle for my base coat, and then because that shows the yellow up really nicely. So I'm just going to show you how those flowers are painted. Again, we're using the number 12 flat. This time I'm picking up the two shades of yellow that are in the pack, yellow ochre and yellow light. Work those in. Okay, so I'm going to look at this, decide where I want another flower, so I'm going to put one here. And basically with this one, we're going to touch at an angle towards the tip. So we're starting here, putting pressure down on the brush and sliding to a tip. Okay, and just do a little bit more paint there. So I'm going to layer those up. Okay, so that's our flower. And then we go back into our green. So we're going to pick up green, white and yellow on the brush. And we're going to add a calyx into that flower just to join it to our vine. Okay, like so. Now, we also need to add a few more leaves to this. So using that green and yellow mixture, and again, the same technique to paint the flowers is for the leaves as well. So we're starting at an angle and we're going to finish there. So we push down on the brush. Pressure on the brush will give you the fatness and a nice round leaf, and then you can bring in a stem. So you can add some more of those as you go round. So keep picking up paint. Very important to keep picking up paint as you're working around. Okay, so just add some more leaves around the design just to complete it. Okay. So that's that. Bringing the stem into the leaf as you go. And when we're using this, when we paint the stem into our leaf, if I paint another one here, we stroke our leaf in. Don't like that leaf, so I'm going to re-stroke it. Pick up fresh paint, re-stroke the leaf, bring the stem while it's wet. Don't paint all your leaves and then bring in the stems once you've painted them all. Okay? And paint, and just fill in the design with some more of these small leaves. So just remember, it's touch at an angle, push down, and then lift up to the chisel edge to get your leaf tip. And as I explained to most people, any of your friends looking at your work are not going to look at that and say, what are those green things? They're going to look like leaves, whatever shape they are really. Okay, so just add a few more of those in there just to fill in the design. Another thing we do with our script liner is we add curlicues to designs. And the curlicues will add a bit of a decorative element to it and just make it look... find my script liner. Okay, let's use a small one. Again, inky paint, so it's water, touch it into the surface. And it's always best when you're loading the brush is to load it right up to the ferrule and then roll it in your fingers as you pull it out of the puddle, just to concentrate the bristles into a tip so that it gets you nice and fine. And then you can just come in and add some curlicues around the design. So it just adds a bit of an airiness to the design. And you don't want to make them too little tight corkscrews. You just want to add some nice loose curlicues around the design. Okay, and again work all the way around. And these always need to come from somewhere. Don't let them float about in the air. Okay, so that. Okay, so that's curlicues all the way around there. Another one in there. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the number 12 flat, and I just want to add a butterfly into my project. And we quite often will add various insects into different projects. So using the two yellows again, the yellow ochre and the yellow lights, double loaded on the number 12. I'm just going to add a butterfly that's going to be, and this is included on the worksheet. Okay, so basically it's a reverse of the flower petal stroke. So we touch out there, pressure down, slide in, overlap two of those, and then using our daisy petal stroke, create the bottom wings. Now, go back to our script liner, pick up some of that inky green, and touch that just above where the strokes meet. Do a curved line, lifting up the stroke just as I get to the tip, and then add two little antennae on there. Okay, last thing to do on that again is always sign it. Never be frightened to sign your work. Okay, so that's another project finished. Okay, and the third project that I'm going to work on is just a piece of wood. So I just wanted to show you some different surfaces here, so that you know various things you can do. And I'm going to start with my large brush, my 3/4 flat, and on that Rosebud worksheet you'll see that we've got these large wiggle leaves. Okay, everybody wants to learn how to paint roses, so this is a nice start. It's a rosebud, so it'll get you on your way to painting your roses. And those wiggle leaves, once you know how to do those, they will really get you in the right direction to paint roses, because it's exactly the same movement. So I'm loading green and white, touch of yellow on the white side onto my 3/4 flat. Okay, so to paint a wiggle leaf, we want a V opening, so we'll put one there. Okay, and that's the top of our leaf. Okay, so we add 1, 2, 3 strokes there. They're our blending strokes, and then you just wiggle around to form that kind of seashell shape, which is not the easiest thing to say. Okay, so when you've got that, so I'm going to go over it again because it's much easier to do this in a complete line. When you've got that seashell, you can slide to a tip. Okay, I'll pick up a little bit more medium on my brush. Okay, and the other side, 1, 2, 3, wiggle around and then slide to the tip, bringing the stem into the leaf. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of those in there. I didn't paint the V the second time because it's something you tend to do when you begin, but you can see it when you finished. When you finish practicing, you'll be able to see that V without having to paint it in there. But you keep painting it as you need to. Okay, and again, we always like 3, so I'm going to turn it, and there's nothing wrong with turning your work upside down if you need to. Okay, so paint another one in there. Often people say, well, if you're painting on a wall, you couldn't turn it, and that's very true. But as this isn't a wall, we can turn it. Okay, and there we go. So that's our wiggle stroke. So we've got 3 wiggle leaves there. And there are a couple of variations of this on the worksheet. So you can paint those however many you want. Some of them got a smooth side, and you can also add small leaves to there. But we're going to paint the rosebuds in next, and then we'll add some small leaves. Okay, so now I'm going to use some pink, and as I said, always shake it first. Squeeze out some pink. I've already got some white on my plate, so I'm back to my number 12 flat. I've rinsed this and double load it with pink and white. Okay, work it in. And again, you could do the side loading where you always load the darker colour first and then straight next to the lighter colour when you side load. Okay, you can do that as well with this. Okay, so to do my basic rosebud, and this is a real quick rosebud to do, we paint a curve like that. Now, our first 2 strokes, the first one goes up, the second one comes down. Okay, and they start and finish in the same place. So if I just show you that on another one, there's a little bit more work to do on that. So let's put another one just here. And if we have 2 lines, we're going to work between those. This is our start and finish points. So touch, push up, and back down. Okay, I'm running out of paint there actually. So push up there. And I'm confusing you a little bit here because I'm working upside down. So, second stroke, start and finish is in the same place. Oops. Okay. So the idea, really, if you look at that, it should look kind of like a 3-dimensional tube. Okay, that you could look inside, hopefully. I always prefer to have the lighter colour on the outside when I paint these because I just think it looks better that way. Okay, so I'm just going to stroke back over that. Okay, so now the way we complete this this particular flower is those first 2 strokes have started straight. You put pressure down on the brush and done a curve. So the brush hasn't really moved out. It hasn't turned either way. But now we're going to make a stroke that starts at a slight angle, sweeps across and finishes at that angle. Okay, so in practice how that looks is it starts over here, okay, it sweeps across and finishes there. So it's almost like a little boat, if you like. And then we can come in and add some daisy type strokes, just crossing over there. Okay. And let's do that again on this one. So remembering that's starting out there, sweeping across and coming that side. And I need a little bit more pink on the brush. Okay. And obviously, you can paint these any colour you want. You paint them to suit your own decor, of course. Okay, so let's put another one over there. Oops. I picked up a little bit too much pink there. So, there's no problem, you can just pick up more paint and stroke back over it if it doesn't go quite right the first time. Okay, and then that's my boat. And the beauty of using acrylic is it does dry fairly quickly, and a lot of the time we can just paint straight over what we've done. So that's our 3 rosebuds on there. We could paint more on there. You can add some extra ones coming down if you wanted to. But for this size of project, what I'm going to do is just leave it at that. Wipe the brush. Then I'm going to pick up some more green. So we're going to pick up some green and white to paint some small leaves in there, just to finish this off. Okay. So, and the same as we did before, if I paint one down here first, we're going to paint, start at an angle, finish at the tip there. So, push down and slide to where the tip's going to be. Whoops, push down, slide, and then bring in the stem. Okay, so we're going to add some more of those. Around our rosebuds, just to finish them off. Remember, just keep picking up paint and turn the work any way you need to get it to work for you. Okay, that little leaf looks a bit lonely on its own, so I'm going to add a couple more down there. Tend to group my leaves generally in threes. Okay, so another one in there. We can bring some more out to the side. And there is no right or wrong way to paint these, depending on which colours at the top. Okay, tend to try and keep them all the same. That way, when you're painting them, okay, you're watching what colours go into the tip. So if it's this colour on the top, okay, it's the colour that's going to go to the tip, so you can watch that. So if it's a darker green, that kind of sits in your head a bit easier. You can then remember a lot easier that it's the darker green, starting there and then going to the tip. Okay, so that's that one, and so a couple more of those leaves in there. There to make them a bit fuller. Okay, so that's added some extra leaves in there. I wanted to come back in with my script liner and add some curlicues. So the same as we did before, some inky green paint, and just come in and add that. So that just adds a little airiness to the design. Okay. There is a bit of a fine line between inky and watery, but it's something you will get used to as you the more you practice. So you'll get a feeling of how it should feel as you're painting. Okay, the more you practice, and practice is really what you need to do. The more you practice, the better you'll get at the strokes. And again, signing it. Okay, so that's the third project finished, and it didn't take very long, did it? So, buy the kit, and you can do all these at home and more. Okay.